What's up, gamers, and welcome back for more WotC-20. Today's matchup is Riptide Feraligatr against Wildfire Moltres. I've never seen the Moltres deck before, so this should be an interesting one to get right into. Opening up, 0 Clefos in starting position, so that'll be interesting. Totodile, of course, for Feraligatr. That is a Neo Genesis Totodile. One of two, the 50 HP variant. We'll talk about attacks if needed. And an old school Haymaker card that we don't see a ton of is Magmar. So a Focus Band comes down on the Magmar. Focus Band makes sense when you're trying to load up a Fossil Moltres with a bunch of fire energies to try to deck your opponent. Decking in this format is pretty difficult, at least as a primary strategy. A lot of matches can go in that direction, but usually as a primary win condition, it's not very common to see. So looks like 2 item finders are getting pitched with a computer search. That's a lot of discarded. And the water attached to Totodile might mean we have to care about the attacks now. So for colorless, it can use Leer on a coin flip. If you get a heads, the defending Pokemon can't attack Totodile during the opponent's next turn. Benching either Mon ends the effect. Ooh, a Misty's Wrath, okay. And then Fury Swipes is flip 3 coins, 10 for each heads. And note that there is a water weakness on that Magmar. So we're seeing a Misty's Wrath here now for a quick setup. It's look at the top 7, keep 2, pitch 5. So very, very turbo, super fun card to use, super hard card to use. And we're not going to see exactly what they were keeping. But 2 Croconaw in the bin, yikes. They definitely kept a Feraligatr because I saw that in the initial Misty's Wrath draw. A Noctowl also discarded and no Hoots on board yet, so pretty brutal discards early for Feraligatr. And they picked up the dice a little early there, so I didn't catch all of the heads for Fury Swipes, but it will be super effective. Looks like there was 1 or 2 since Magmar isn't rolling for a Focus Band proc. Alright, 1 head, so 20 to Magmar. And now Magmar attaching for itself. Oh, and an Aerodactyl comes down. Did not see that coming on the buried fossil. It must have been in hand. Okay, and Tickling Machine. Oh my gosh, a lot of new cards I have to talk about here. I'm going to start with the Magmar inactive. It's from Fossil. Okay, it was a Tails on Tickling Machine. So I think we're going to ignore that. Just ends their turn immediately. I think it would have put the opponent's hand off to the side. I'll have to check on it, but the Magmar at least is now up to 60 total. So it's a 70 HP basic, so pretty big. Kind of a classic Haymaker card. For 1 fire attack, Smokescreen does 10, and then the defending Pokemon has to flip to attack. I guess I should pull up Tickling Machine for the folks in the back, though. And we see an Oak getting rid of a Focus Band. What else was it? A Metal Energy, it looks like? Can't see the bottom energy there, and a Cyclone. No risk, no reason not to attach that Focus Band to the benched Aerodactyl, unless you really don't want it. You can see an Imposter Oak in hand. So I'm going to have to get my cards pulled up here. So Tickling Machine is from the gym set, not the rocket set, but yes, if you hit a heads, the opponent puts all cards in their hand face down. No one can look at them. At the end of your opponent's next turn, they can put those cards back in their hand. So usually that gets comboed with Imposter Oak, so you can put the hand aside and force your opponent to draw 7.
If he smoke screens my Pokemon, I retreat and then put it back up. It can attack.
Alright, so now they're clarifying smokescreen rules. Benching your active Pokemon that was smokescreened will allow you to attack again. So that looks like that will be the play line for Feraligatr here. Cleffa coming down finally on the bench, but looks like Totodile is going to need to work this super effective matchup here. And now we see if Focus Band will save this Magmar. It does not, so that is a knocked out Magmar. Spooky because you don't want your Aerodactyl in the active. But yeah, usually the combo with Tickling Machine is to Tickle Machine on a heads and then drop a Imposter Oak. Imposter Oak would force your opponent to shuffle their hand into the deck and draw 7. So Forces the opponent to eke, but if there's no hand, you can deck your opponent from 7 cards or less. So definitely a win condition. Not sure what the use of Tickling Machine super early would be optimal for, but that's alright. I've never seen this deck before. And you can see another Tickling Machine in hand. Okay, they're going to go for it. So if there's... it's a tails. So that ends the turn immediately. I would have liked to see...
You set aside all your cards in your hand face down. Nobody looks at those cards. At the end of your opponent's next turn, your opponent puts those cards back into his or her hands.
Alright, and they're just explaining the Tickling Machine rules there, but it still doesn't reveal to me what would have been the next card played. All tails on the Fury Swipes for Totodile, but that's okay because this Feraligatr deck has hit heads on a Cleffa or some baby with also 3 heads from Fury Swipe, so that'll happen in the inverse sometimes. Another Magmar comes down, Aerodactyl stuck and active. If that goes down, the floodgates will open up. No pun intended. The Magmar is a decent stall card, fairly bulky. The second attack on Magmar would be Smog for 2 fire, flip a coin, deal 20, or deal 20 regardless, but flip a coin if heads, poison. Another comp search, so now there are 2 comp searches in the bin along with 2 item finders. We saw an Oak and a Feraligatr pitched, so there's either another Feraligatr available in hands or just in the deck, and they'll try to find it later. But that implies to me that there isn't much of a plan for Arrow right now other than to get really lucky with Fury Swipes. And Igglybuff came out? Yep, there you go. Now, Igglybuff can't shut off Aerodactyl when it's in the active, so that's kind of funny. Alright, Fury Swipes is going to get 1 heads. But yeah, Gaze is a very good counter to Aerodactyl, but Gaze can only target one opponent's benched Pokemon, so Igglybuff would be even crazier if it could target active, or even better if it could target your own. But that would be completely broken. We've talked about this in shop. Alright, looks like we're now attaching Fire Energy to Aerodactyl. We have yet to see a Moltres, but title says this is a Moltres deck. I guess if you ever drawn to a Gust here as Riptide, you could force that Aerodactyl to bench. And now that Aerodactyl has been dealt 30 damage out of 60, so not a big HP mon. Is Grass weak? That won't matter here. I can't tell if it's an Imposter Oak in hand or a regular Oak in hand.
Yeah.
But Desperate Times, and it is a regular Oak, so that's pitching... Didn't quite see the E-Raiders, but that pitched an Aerodactyl, so not sure how many Aerodactyls are run in this build, but the Imposter Oak going down, probably not a huge deal. Not sure how many item finders are in this build either. Looks like there is an Alt-Art Copycat in hand, and I only say Alt-Art in the sense that it is not the original WotC-20 run print from Expedition. We'll see. I don't know if there's any Fossil Eggs run in this deck. That is one way to get 2 Aerodactyl online so that Igglybuff isn't the perfect counter. And now with Arrow retreating, you know that that'll get Totodile evolving, assuming that Riptide did not pitch all of their evolution material. And a pass with no Eek. Igglybuff is now going to shut off Aerodactyl. And there was a Croconaut in hand. So that is another Neogenesis Croconaut, but there are 2. Again, just like the Totodile in this build, that is the higher HP one, 80 HP. There's a good copycat. So we'll keep an eye on that Croconaut. It can do a lot of damage. It can deal 50 with Sweep Away. For 2 water and a colorless, it just mills 3 off the top of your own deck, but sometimes that doesn't matter. Alright, there's a Hoot Hoot. And a Noctowl, so if you can toggle off that Aerodactyl, you might as well start disrupting. So we'll definitely look to see that evolve next turn.
Computer search.
Another computer search. Is that 3 computer searches? I'm assuming that the very first turn for Riptide was a comp search, considering they discarded 2 item finders and then took a card they wanted. So I guess that's 3 comp searches. A little bit of deck peep here. You can see another Misty's Wrath in deck, so 3 comp searches and at least 2 Wraths. That is a lot of turbo. And a copycat for support. Not sure if there's gold berries in there, but you would think. I see another Wrath in deck. So 3 Misty's Wrath, 3 comp search is wild aggressive. And an Oak, okay. Trash Exchange is a fun card for Riptide. If you're not familiar with it, you count the cards in your bin, combine your deck and bin, and then discard that many back into the bin. So it is a very unique way to get certain cards back out of the discard that you otherwise couldn't, assuming you can then get them out of your deck. Metal Energy is kind of the primary use case, but for Riptide, it's just Riptiding. Get your water energy out of the bin or into the bin. Alright, now it looks like Cleffa's getting set up at least. Full HP. That is a Fisherman, I believe. And there's another Fisherman in the bin, from what I can tell. I think it's a Fisherman. I'm not familiar with all of the later printing artworks. Yep. That is a Fisherman from Breakthrough. So 2 Magmar down, still no Moltres. Although you don't have to really proactively mill your opponent when they're playing Misty's Wraths and Oaks. Now with Feraligatr actually set up, we can talk Riptide. So Riptide will deal 10 plus 10 damage times the number of water energy in your discard. Then you put all water energy cards from your discard back into your deck. Surprisingly good at not letting yourself mill out. Alright, Riptide attempt here is most certainly going to knock out Cleffa. They just have to count the bin.
Well, I then shuffle my water energy back in.
And if you're not familiar with Downpour on Feraligatr, as long as it's on board or in the active slot. Alright, it's a Tails on the Cleffa. As long as it's on the bench or in the active slot, as often as you like during your turn, you can discard a water energy from your hand. Of course, status will turn that off. And Feraligatr has a massive 120 HP, best in class for the format. And we finally see Moltres come down. So let's talk Moltres. A 70 HP basic with no weakness, which is nice considering the water-fire matchup is relevant right now. We saw the Magmar go down early. But Dive Bomb is not really a great attack for 4 fire. It's a coin flip to deal 80. So the real reason you run it is for Wildfire. You may discard any number of fire energy attached to Moltres when using Wildfire, and that mills a corresponding number of cards off the top of the opponent's deck. Alright, and a Copycat for Supporter on turn. So I guess if you're Wildfire here, you can't really lock down the board with Aerodactyl anymore. I guess you're just going to bring up Moltres to get absolutely canned by Riptide.
Yep, you discard 3 cards from the top of your deck. It does help you, but it's okay.
And did I miss the fire energy getting discarded off of Moltres for the discard 3, or? Well, I must have missed that. I'm not sure the Wildfire went off correctly there, but Alright, well, it doesn't matter right now because that Riptide did enough damage to one-shot the Moltres, so that is second prize taken, 4 to 6. Cleffa can try to stand tall here, but instead we see an Elm, which is as good as eking if you're not planning on playing trainers for the rest of the turn. And a full grip at 7. So I guess your plan here is to start stalling in some capacity. Oh, and an E-Reader Porygon comes down. Did not see that coming.
It's a nice just real quick grab a Fisherman or something, and I actually will.
So it sounds like based on what they're discussing, the Porygon is run for the Data Sort attack. The first attack on Porygon is a flip, and if heads, you can take a trainer from your discard and shuffle it into your deck. So good for getting back Tickling Machines or Imposter Oaks or Fisherman. Unsure if there's a Porygon 2 hiding in there somewhere. Now we see a Trash Exchange, so this will take a second. They gotta count the bin, combine everything, and then discard that many, so that'll take a bit to resolve. Sounds like 19 cards there, and then that will definitely allow Riptide to continue doing some big damage. Unsure how many Trash Exchanges are in the deck, but you can even get your Trash Exchange back into the deck, but not the one we just saw discarded. That's a lot of water. It's probably... yeah, that's definitely enough with the super effective aspect in play here. Not sure if there's a Vending Mime in Wildfire, but would help in water matchups. Water is pretty common to see in format. And it looks like that was a Tails through Smokescreen, so... Fisherman comes down again. I feel like we've seen 2 others of those. Lots of fire back into hand. And an attach to Magmar, so a slow burn here. Croconaw slowly getting powered up. Alright, here comes a Riptide attempt. And once again, Smokescreen stalling out very well for Magmar. Gonna have to try to advance the board somehow, though. I mean, maybe sack 1 Magmar just to get a poison off. You could force a pretty big retreat onto that Feraligatr, which would discard 3. Yeah, they're retreating anyway. And that was intentional so that the Smokescreen lock could be broken. Croconaw can come on in and take a super effective knockout with Sweep Away, which will mill 3.
We're going to sweep away for 100.
Yep.
I will put out Magmar.
Alright, Magmar comes back in from the bench. Sweep Away will continue to one-shot the Magmars, but milling 3 is probably not the worst game plan. If you're playing Wildfire here, you just got to find a way to slow things down. Worth noting that Sweep Away will knock out anything right now on Wildfire's side.
Energy, retreat, Magmar.
Oh, Magmar retreating to bring in Porygon for a Data Sort. That has to be on heads, though.
Never mind.
It's not on heads. So, that will take out the Porygon, I think. Alright, a Gust comes down to take out the Magmar. We don't even care about Aerodactyl anymore. Alright, so much for milling with Sweep Away. This is definitely going to be enough. Now, I think
It puts all of them. I don't
Yeah, Riptide forces you to put back all of the
There's a,
energy.
bulk run of the from the previous like rotation of sets.
So that'll get us down to 2 prizes.
Fire energy in your discard pile, and then
But we're looking super low
that
on
with the Moltres
cards in deck for Feraligatr.
reprinted. It makes a fun combo. I will put out Clever. Honestly, not what I want to see.
Tough spot for Wildfire here.
Good.
It is hard to keep track of the number of comp searches and item finders in the deck with Trash Exchange, but I have to imagine that was one of the item finders we saw discarded very early. Trash Exchange happening again here. So that is probably a Magmar destined for the bin.
Looks like this might be one deck that I should not have faced this round 1 for. Because I help you out more than anything. There's the smallest path I see, but it's a very small path.
Yep. And that's just easily going to be enough with super effective damage. So we will be down to 1 prize. There's a nice fan club.
A lot of damage. Save my luck, please.
And we'll wait for the prize up from Riptide to see if there is anything that can be done for Wildfire here other than, you know, perfect baby flips for Cleffa. A lot of fire energy in hand. Alright, there's another Wrath. Good for getting water into the bin. Especially if they're clumped together from the previous Riptide. That would be enough for the final prize if they can hit through the Cleffa. Downpouring 2 more into the bin for some reason. And the Gust will definitely do it, yep. That will be game, so... Fun game, fun decks. Wildfire, very interesting. I'm curious what's in there. I see an Apom, a Metal, but yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see if we see any more of these decks later on, and have a good one.
Yep, that was not the best matchup. That's okay. That was fun.
The thing is with Feraligatr is it can do big damage really quick sometimes.
I mean, yeah, the trash
exchange.
Literally, Trash Exchange is like, oh, hey, I have 20 cards in my discard pile. Well, I'm going to put them back in, and then discard 20, and then hit you again.